Welcome back for another fantastic day in Algebra 1. Today we're going to be talking about how we can graph lines using the x and y intercept when we have the standard form of a line. So we've already talked about what standard form of a line is. So just a quick review. Standard form is anytime you have a number times x and a number times y, and they equal another number. And remember, what's special about standard form is that x and y are on the same side of the equal sign. So x is over here on the left and y is over here on the left, which is really nice because they're kind of together, all cozy on the left. And so that makes standard form of a line. It's the standard form of an equation, which is different than slope-intercept form that we were learning before. So when we were learning slope-intercept form, we talked about graphing. When you're graphing in slope-intercept form, you use the b as your beginning, and your m tells you how to move. You connect your two dots, and there's your line. Well, standard form is a little bit different, okay? We still need 2 points. We're still going to connect them with a straight edge, but how we find those 2 points is going to change a little bit. Now, you've already talked about how to find the x and y intercept when you're given a standard form of an equation. So we're going to take a look at number 1, and we're going to go over this together just to review how to find the x and y intercepts. So let's take a look. We have 5x minus 3y equals 15. I'm going to go ahead and write that again. 5x minus 3y equals 15. Exactly the same, because I'm going to use one of them to find the x-intercept and one of them to find the y-intercept. So just to review how we do that. If I'm going to find the x-intercept, I need to plug in 0 for y. So if y is 0, then this is 3 times 0. And 3 times 0 is just 0. So it makes this whole term disappear. Okay? And we're left with 5x equals 15. So I can just solve to find out what x is. Divide by 5 on both sides, and x equals 15 divided by 5 is just 3. So that tells me my x-intercept. Let's create a coordinate point to represent that point. Remember, a coordinate point has an x value and a y value. Well, we plugged in 0 for y, so we're going to put the 0 on the y side. And when we did that, when we plugged in 0 for y, what did x equal? 3. So that's the other part of our coordinate point. So our x-intercept is 3, 0. Now we're going to do the same thing for the y-intercept. So we're going to take 0 and we're going to plug it in for x because we want to find y. So in order to find y, we have to plug in 0 for x. When we do that, 5 times 0, well, that just becomes 0. So this term is gone. And now I can solve for y. I'll divide both sides by -3 to get y all by itself, and y equals -5. So what does that mean for my y-intercept then? Well, that means at the coordinate point where x equals 0, because I plugged in 0 for x, if x equals 0, y equals -5. And that's how easy it is. There's my 2 intercepts. I have an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Now, here's where the graphing comes in. Once you have your x-intercept and your y-intercept, you're going to put them on the graph. So the x-intercept is at 3, 0. So on my x-axis, I'm going to go over to 3, and I'm going to stay at 0 on my y-axis. Then I'm going to go to my y-intercept, which is at 0, -5. So -5 on the y-axis and 0 on the x-axis. I have 2 points, and anytime you are graphing lines, once you have 2 points, you are good to go. So I'm going to take my 2 points, and I'm going to connect them with my straight edge. Yes, you need to use a straight edge. Please make sure that you are doing that. If you don't have one, get one. And there you go. You've graphed your line. You find your 2 intercepts, you connect them with a straight edge, and that gives you your line. Now, just for practice, just for fun, let's go ahead and find the slope. Remember, when you're finding the slope of a line on a graph, you want to find 2 points that cross at an intersection. It just so happens that our 2 intercept points cross at an intersection. So let's use those. So to get from the left point to the right point, going left to right, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up 5, that's my rise, and over 1, 2, 3. Up 5, over 3. And it's a positive slope, so the type of line is going to be uphill for positive uphill. And when I look at my graph, that is in fact how it turns out, so I know I did it right. Why don't you pause the video, give number 24 a try. Come on back when you think you've got it. Okay, are you ready? You write the equation 2 times, once for the x-intercept and once for the y-intercept. To find the x-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y. So 0 goes here. 2 times 0 is 0, so this point disappears, and the sign stays attached. Remember that. So now I have 5x equals negative 10. Divide by 5 on both sides, and x equals negative 2. That was easy. Now let's do y. For a y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x this time. And so when I go to my equation and I plug in 0 here instead of x, 5 times 0, well, that's just 0, so that disappears. And I'm left with negative 2y equals negative 10. Divide by negative 2, cross them out, and y equals 10 over 2, which is 5. And since it was a negative divided by a negative, the signs were the same, and that equals a positive. So when x equals 0, y equals 5. Let me go ahead and plot those. 0, 5 is here on the y-axis, which makes sense because it's my y-intercept. And negative 2, 0 is over here on my x-axis. I have my 2 points, so now I can connect them with a straight edge. And there we go. I've graphed the equation of the line. Now, just for practice, let's find our slope. I'm going to start at the point on the left and go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 5. Over 1, 2. 2. So that's my rise over run. And I don't have to simplify it or reduce it or anything like that. I can just leave it as 5 halves. That's fine. It's a positive slope, which means this is an uphill line because that P means positive. And that's how those are connected. Let's take a look at a few more examples. All right, number 25 is very similar. So let's see, I'm going to write it again. 2x minus 3y equals 6. And let's find the x-intercept first. For the x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So in my coordinate point, I'm going to put 0 in the y spot. Let's go ahead and plug that in. 0 here, and 3 times 0 is 0. So this whole term disappears, and I'm going to solve for x. X equals 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So my x-intercept is at 3, 0. Now for my y-intercept, to find that point, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So let's go ahead and go to our equation and do that. I'll put a 0 in here at the x spot. Put that in parentheses because it's being multiplied. And 2 times 0 is just 0. 0, so this is gone. And I have negative 3y equals 6. Let's solve for y. Divide by negative 3. And y equals 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. And there we have it. 0, negative 2. Now we plot them on the graph. So 0, negative 2 on the y-axis goes right there. And 3, 0 on the x-axis goes there. And now we connect. Try to get them as close to the center of the line as you can. There you go. Connecting it, and just for practice, let's find our slope. Remember to always go left to right, and we're going to rise first. So from this point, we have to go up 2, and then our run is going to be 1, 2, 3, over 3. Positive 2 over 3. Positive means it's an uphill line, and my graph confirms that, so I know I'm good to go. Let's take a look at number 26. 26, I'm going to write it again. See if you can do this one right along with me. You've seen it done a couple times now. Try to keep up with the video. For the x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So I'm going to put 0 in the y spot. Go to my equation, plug in 0 here. Well, there's nothing being multiplied by it, so it certainly disappears because it's just 0. Divide by 6, divide by 6, and I have x equals 3 over 6, which is also 1/2 when I reduce that. So my x-intercept is at 1/2, 0. So far, so good. Y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for x, and I'm going to see what the y value is. So I go back to my equation, I plug in a 0 here. 6 times 0 is just 0, so this whole term is just going to disappear. And I have positive y equals 3. That's easy. Y equals 3. So there's my 2 points. Let's put them on the graph. Y-intercept is at 0, 3. X-intercept is at 1/2, 0. You can just estimate that the best you can. That's fine. And let's connect these points. Okay, so we've connected them. Now, just for practice, let's find our slope. We are going to go, left to right, and this time we're going to go down. 1, 2, 3. So down 3 for our rise. That's the number on top. And then we're going to go over 1/2. That looks weird, to have a fraction inside a fraction. All right, let's talk about this for a minute, because this is something you'll see come up from time to time. Remember that to divide by a fraction, really what you're going to do is copy, change, flip, and multiply by the reciprocal. What do I mean? Copy the top, change it from division to multiplication, and flip the fraction on the bottom. So instead of 1/2, we're going to flip it over and do 2 over 1. Okay, so copy, change, flip. That's how you divide by a fraction. Now, in order to work with fractions, we need both of them to be fractions. So I'm going to put that -3 over 1, and then it's just multiply straight across. -3 times 2 is just going to be -6. 1 times 1 is 1, so my slope is -6. What type of line has a negative slope? Negative. That is a downhill, because it's got the N in there. A downhill line has a negative slope. And looking at our graph going from left to right, we can see that that certainly is the case. Let's take a look at a couple more. All right, so for this one we have 3x minus 4y equals -20. We're going to take it one thing at a time. X-intercept, to find the x, we plug in 0 for y. So y goes in here. -4 times 0 is just 0. So this -4 times 0 becomes 0. And we just divide by 3. So this will cancel, and x equals -20 over 3. Ooh, that's a yucky looking fraction. It doesn't reduce or anything. For our coordinate point, we're going to write -20 over 3, but then right above it, I'm going to convert it, because when I go to put it on my graph, it'll be a lot easier if instead of going 20/3, I could have a whole number and then a little fraction with it. So let's see. To convert, I'm going to take my denominator, divide into my numerator. So 20 divided by 3 is 6, and that would give me 18, and so I'd have 2 left over. So 2/3. So this is actually -6 2/3 for when I go to graph it. Let's take a look at y. Hopefully this one works out a little more clearly. For the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. Once you plug in 0 for x, whatever it's being multiplied by just disappears. So that's gone. Divide both sides by -4. And y equals, let's see, negative divided by negative is a positive. 20 divided by 4 is 5, so positive 5. That was much nicer. So let's see where these points are. The y-intercept is at 0, 5 on the y-axis. The x-intercept, remember this was a kind of a funky fraction, but if you convert it to a mixed number, then all you got to do is say, okay, -6, and then 1/3, 2/3. It's off my graph a little bit, but that's okay. Nothing I can't handle. It's just a little bit, so it's not a big deal. Remember, you're estimating anyway when you're graphing. You're getting as close as possible, but it's not going to be perfect. Then we're going to go from here to here. And we have our line. Make sure to put the arrows on both ends. That's an important part of graphing a line. Some of my students like to forget that part. So make sure that you're putting those arrows on there. Now, let's talk about how to find the slope of this line. We could start with our intercept and count up to 5 and count over 6 2/3. But then we're dealing with fractions again. Fractions are really tough to deal with, so if you can avoid them, please do. How do you avoid them, you say? Well, just look for anywhere there's an intersection. Remember, to find the slope of a line, you don't have to use any particular points. You just have to use points that cross at an intersection. Our y-axis is good. It crosses at an intersection. But our x-axis crosses on a fraction. So that's kind of a pain. Go along the line and see if it crosses anywhere else, like right here. Right there, it's right on an intersection. So let's use this point instead. If I use that point to find my slope, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, up 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. And that works. Positive 3/4. Positive slope is an uphill line. So what type of line? Uphill. And there you have it. Why don't you pause the video, give number 28 a try, and come on back when you want to check your answer. How'd you do? That one was pretty straightforward, so I hope that you felt really comfortable with it. There's a few more to do on the next page of your packet, so why don't you tackle those before you come to class tomorrow, and be sure to bring me any questions that you might have. I'll be sure to do a few more examples in part 2 of the video, so if you're still feeling a little shaky and you want to do some along with me, feel free to watch part 2.